Welcome to the most forward-thinking, inspirational podcast in this reality. The show designed to challenge everything we've been taught. If you've ever felt there had to be more to life, more to existence, then you're listening to the right podcast. Time to open your mind and dive in. This is the Mental Mastery Alliance podcast.
And here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Mental Mastery Alliance podcast. Today is February 28th. And it's funny because this month there's been such a hiatus, but typically we try to do minimum 4 episodes a month. But I feel like I've been slacking this month. Obviously I have. I took a few weeks off. I took care of a few things, handled a few things, but I remember rolling into January, there was a lot to talk about. I was on a roll. I had a lot to say and a lot to do, and I sort of sit back and I watched more and more play out. I watched more and more take effect. I watched more things happen in this world. And it was funny because, you know, you're watching all this and I'm watching all this, and it's like, I remember back in the beginning, the awakening, for lack of a better term, the moment when you're kind of like, what the fuck is going on? What is really happening? What is happening here? And you start thinking you're crazy because you start really truly asking questions. You start noticing things at a higher rate, faster, more rapidly. And you kind of have to come to grips with it. And it's a weird spot because it's a place that we've never been before. But the more you realize it, the more you realize that we've realized nothing. And then you kind of work through that. And you kind of create a reality or a story around how you're seeing currently what you're seeing. And I mean, this sounds like a 2-minute ramble, and it kind of is when I'm trying to explain it, but I can't really explain it. And I'm sure that some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. But then you get used to the new norm, and you get used to the fact that, wait a minute, this is bullshit, that's bullshit, this is bullshit, that's bullshit. You get used to the idea that, for the most part, we've been lied to about absolutely everything. And then you start seeing more and more people project and speak on these topics. I mean, I remember, like I said, I remember back when this podcast started, there were things that I was not going to talk about. I simply wasn't. I was too wrapped up in possibly the third dimensional reality mentality, the idea that if I'm trying to create something or do something, that I'm going to be stopped, shut down, whatever. Just that it wouldn't work out. And it was a fear. It was a crippling fear. When I say crippling, I don't mean like, oh, I was paralyzed completely. It was more of a realization that, the things that I understand and know I can't talk about because, first off, I don't know them well enough to talk on them. And secondly, I wouldn't be able to stand up to quote unquote scrutiny if somebody decided that they wanted to attack me. And in the beginning, they did. And maybe it was my tone. Maybe it was the tone in which I chose to speak or how I chose to say what I wanted to say. Perhaps my delivery was askew. As some of you may notice right now, my voice is a little bit different. After my last podcast that I stated, hey, we're back in normal time, I ended up getting really sick. So I haven't been sick in like 5-10 years. It's been a long time since I've even had the sniffles. So this thing has taken it out of me, but I wanted to make sure we got one more episode up in February. So bear with my deeper now voice that I could probably do like sex calls with. Hello, doing the sex calls. I don't know how to do that. Saying the sex phone things with this voice right now. At least I'm still crazy. Yeah. So going through that moment where you're like, I don't know if I can say what I want to say or how I can get this out there. Getting started getting started in almost anything is one of the most complicated things that you're ever going to do. And then once you sort of get the ball rolling and once you understand what you're doing, it becomes repetitive and cyclical, and it becomes this beautiful understanding and wonderful thing. But when the whole world and all of its systems are forever changing around you, it messes with you, because it's almost like every single day is day one. And this was what I'd been experiencing more and more and more recently. And that's the past couple of weeks. And this has happened probably about 4 times where I end up taking this peculiar hiatus. And it's not just from the podcast. It's from life. It's reassessing stuff and taking a look at things and taking stock. And I know we're supposed to do this at all times. We always take stock in our lives. But I'm sitting here taking stock in the mentality of the universe. And every single thing that plays out or takes place has an effect and leaves a mark. And I'm so confused right now because I can see it, but I can't put it together. But I'm seeing it constantly. And I want to talk on it, but I think to myself, this is only a 1-minute conversation. How do I tie this in with that? So while I'm being sparse and while the episodes are further apart now, I think it's primarily because the things that I want to talk about, I don't know how to put into words at this moment in time. And I am a master debater and a cunning linguist at the same time. Back to the sex tones. And I want to be able to put forth the best product I can. I also don't have a problem putting out a rambly podcast because those are kind of fun too, which is kind of what this is. But I definitely wanted to say that we're in the midst of something that's drastically changing all around us. We have, in the third dimension, we have train derailments all over the place. We have all of these crazy things happening that aren't being spoken of. We have absolute evidence of things that don't add up, that aren't lining up. And this is just in the delivery. This is just the third dimensional delivery, the basics, the rudimentary things that you turn on the television, here's a story. But then what's also collapsing is the narrative. So the people behind the narrative, the people behind the stories, the idea that we're all having a unique or sorry, that we're all having a thought and that we're all arguing with each other, that narrative is collapsing as well. It's becoming more and more apparent that so much of this is fabricated, i.e. like the Twitter bots, for example, you know, the all the pink hairs, the extreme liberals, they don't really exist. What's happening is you're seeing, you know, somebody that has a weakness or a proclivity to something be influenced by something else. And then you're seeing anyone that speaks against it attacked by either bots or by the influence of bots. And this is where it gets really confusing for me, because if we're supposed to be taking care of ourselves, but so many people out there, there's a massive amount of human energy out there. And these people aren't necessarily taking care of themselves. They're not focused on themselves. They're focused on you. They're focused on actions. They're focused on creating something possibly for themselves off of the backs of others. In other words, for them to feel whole, they must feel righteous in what they say, think, or do. And that means that you, the free thinker and the free speaker who's actually having the conversations or pushing the envelope, will be attacked by somebody who has drank as much of the Kool-Aid as they possibly can. And they think other people have drank the Kool-Aid, and they think they're speaking up for those that can't speak for themselves. So we're sitting in a narrative right now where if you try to do anything, and I'll even equate this back to Jesus. And this is part of me being sick. I'm not as quick-witted and I can't remember names and I hate doing edits. What's his name? Bill Hicks. Alex Jones. So Alex Jones gets slapped with this lawsuit, right? Saying that it's like $1 billion, for example. And now I'm 100% of the belief that, you know, Alex Jones is sorry for my brain is just foggy. I'll keep this episode short, that's for sure. But Alex Jones, he's there for you to see him. And I believe the same about anybody who's signed hundreds of millions of dollars worth of deals and who's been given public access to so many things, and who is circling the ethos of something good. And people can say the same thing about me. Like, well, what happens when you get so big that people know who you are? Well, that will be interesting. Right now we have a beautiful little following. You guys are fantastic. I love each and every one of you. Everyone that engages with us, it's beautiful. But at the end of the day, we're still a very small, quote unquote, non-influential group that's shaking some stuff up. And I'm very happy about that. We don't have the numbers to be quote unquote taken seriously, but we do have the numbers to have an impact. And that's very important to me. So Alex Jones is out there getting fined $1 billion for saying things about Sandy Hook. And anyone that's done any work on Sandy Hook has watched the videos, right? They've seen that Sandy Hook was, and this is where it gets tricky. Do you say it was a hoax? Do you say it was this? Do you say it was that? Well, now you have to worry about what somebody said about something over here, and now Alex Jones, who seemed like he had it all, was sued for $1 billion. That lawsuit, it creates the inability to speak freely. What it does is it shows people that if you speak up and if you have an opinion, if you say something, they're going to sue you. And so most people are like, well, I can't afford $1 billion, so I'm not going to say anything. It's another tactic inside the game of manipulation, inside this whatever game that we're playing, to keep you down, to keep you not speaking your mind. How he could have avoided that? Simple. Sandy Hook, this is what I would say. This would be the quote that I would have used, and I wouldn't have been so blatant. Because again, at the same time, remember, I'm having issues with the extreme left and the extreme right. Both of these people, these groups are crazy. And for him to have gotten away with, or for him to have not been in trouble for what he said, I mean, it's an obvious sort of graze. You look at this and you can say to yourself, okay, Sandy Hook took place. We all know what it was. There's a high likelihood that this was an operation. There's also a possibility that people did get hurt. So I would say that there are kids who probably got hurt there, and there are staged kids who were part of the psyop. So to say every single thing definitively didn't happen would be wrong. But to say every single thing definitively happened the way the media portrayed it would also be wrong. And when you can't say one or the other, because again, we're also told from a very young age to stand for something or fall for everything, which I used to live by, but also firmly believe that that's a detrimental mindset to have right now. Because any belief that you have that you can't question or alter or change with new information, any firm belief that you have is a limiting belief. If you aren't able to question it, it's a limiting belief, no matter how advanced you may think it to be. Any belief that you've got is a limiting belief if it's not allowed to be questioned. So, as I'm saying all these things, I'm noticing the world. I'm noticing this general overall collapse of essence and narrative. What I'm seeing is oversaturation. Humanity is overstimulated, and now we're in a slow burn, right? Humanity. Why do I even have an opinion? I mean, I do have an opinion. I'm allowed to have an opinion. We're all entitled to have an opinion. But why do I have a show? Why has technology advanced in such a way that I can sit here and share this with you? Now, luckily for me, I don't know each and every one of you. I don't get the opportunity to see you. I don't connect with you. You guys don't reach out as much as you could or you should, or maybe in the future you will. But for me, all I see is numbers on a screen. So all I see is the growth patterns, the numbers, who's listening to what, and that sort of stuff. So I don't have any faces or anything like that, but I do see that there's an impact, and I appreciate that, and I think that's great. And I hope, I would assume that I'm entertaining to a degree in the way I think and in the way I do things, because there's a freedom to be had out there. There's a freedom to be grabbed for, and that freedom exists it's fundamental to our existence. It's the thing that we're all chasing. And I think that me working through what I'm working through, which is essentially, this is episode 247. And each one of these episodes is me working through something. And what you've witnessed from the beginning of this to now is me trying to understand how to get a voice out there and how to get something out there. How to go from being the black sheep that everyone made fun of with regards to his ideas to the person that will help you cognitively spin a thought. And then also at the same time question where that thought came from. Because like I've said before, your brain, what's it doing? Is your brain having thoughts? Are you creating thoughts inside your head right now? Does the radio create music? No, it just taps into a frequency and makes it audible for your senses. But I'm not sure that your brain is having thoughts. I think that your brain is tapping into thoughts as you go up and down your frequency. Which is why when you're low vibrational, we think negative thoughts. But when we're high vibrational, almost anything is possible. Which is why, so many things take place. When you look at what's going on in the world, it seems that everything is trying to keep us low vibrational. Look at all the crap that we put into our bodies, the sensors that we take off, the way we block ourselves from almost everything. And yet we think it's normal. So I say all this because, I'm at a point right now where I'm doing my best to work through some ideas and some thoughts and to get some better things out there. I want to make sure that I've got for you guys the greatest material I can, whether it's guests, whether it's, ideas, whether it's just sharing and rambling and just generally being a dick and having a laugh. These are the things that I want to do. And I find myself currently at, it's a confusing spot, and I've seen it before. I've seen it numerous times. This is just one of the strongest ones. One of the strongest versions of it, I guess, because as much as I'm sort of tongue-tied at certain things, I'm seeing things so much more clearly. Yet I can't quite, like I've said before, I can't quite tie them in just yet. And it's going to be fire when I do. When I can start making the connections and when I can start audibly stating the things and tying this to that and just, I guess, maybe experiencing it more and more from this particular level, things are going to change. But right now, that's the breakthrough that I'm personally working on. I'm trying to break through that barrier. And we've done it before, right? This is, like I said, the biggest barrier was going from third dimension to the awareness that there's something more to this, that we've been lied to. Like the fundamental idea that we've been lied to. Once you crack that, again, the crack keeps spreading. So what I'm experiencing right now is just an extension of the initial crack. The crack keeps spreading, and it's not just in me. It's in you. It's in the ethos. It's in everything. The crack keeps spreading, and the result of the crack is new knowledge, new information, new ideas, new ways of doing things, new ways of thinking, new ways of seeing things. And it's all phenomenal. It's all phenomenal. So, that's just where I am. So you guys are fully up to date on that scenario. And yeah, this is the last episode of February. I'm going to shoot again to get a little bit more regularity in for January, or Jesus, the sickness, my brain, February, March is coming up. And it can't come soon enough, ladies and gentlemen, too, because I am sick of the cold up here in Canada. I am sick of the cloud cover. I would like to see the sun. It's been 984,000 years since I've seen the sun, or at least that's how it feels. I would like to see the sun. I would like to rejuvenate. I would like to stick my feet on the bare ground, and I would like to recharge, and I would like to share with Mother Earth my grounding experience. Man, there's a lot coming down the pipe. There's a lot of great stuff coming up. So thank you guys very much for listening to this as far as you have. And in the infamous words of Red Green, keep your stick on the ice.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Mental Mastery Alliance podcast. Stay connected with us directly through the mentalmasteryalliance.com. You can also join the discussion on Instagram at instagram.com/the Mental Mastery Alliance. Let the team know you're listening by using the hashtag TMMA or tagging us at the Mental Mastery Alliance. To have your voice heard on the show, leave a voicemail or send a text to 647-338-1265. Long distance charges may apply. If you love us, leave us a review. If you hate us, you spend your time in weird ways, but also leave a review. Every review on iTunes tickles the algorithm, helping us grow. Until next time, unity over division. This concludes the most surreal portion of your day.
You got it, Pontiac.